And welcome to another edition of Berardi and Coke. Following that, what adjective shall I use? Frustrating. I think it's probably the best word. Visit down to Villa Park. We are hoping to get one or two people joining us at some stage today. But before we do, Gilly's going to run a quick intro, and I forgot about that, didn't you?
No, I'm ready.
Hi, this is Don Matteo, and you are listening to the Ought to Know Better podcast. Let's do this.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks everyone for joining us. I know it's a bit early. Most of you probably are out of bed, but when you do watch this, first things first, I just want to, this is on more on a personal note, really. And if you do watch this and you are one of our 5 listeners that does watch it, I just want to say you're a shithouse for stinging me with that ticket yesterday. You know who you are. You're an absolute bellend. You're a knobhead. And it's not sat well with me at all. I was absolutely fucking fuming yesterday. So I hope you enjoyed the game, but not really. And got a flat tire on your way home or something. But anyway,
you did manage to get yourself a ticket anyway, didn't you?
I got there, and I actually bumped into some old friends from who I've grown up with on the concourse as well. So I managed to get a ticket from somebody, I won't name who it was, and all their tickets were on the upper tier. So I was going into the lower tier just on my Todd thing. I bumped into somebody I know. I bumped into two lads who I used to knock about with, did a bit of growing up with, and nice to see them. And I've seen a couple of. You always see people, everywhere you go, don't you? So
only a little bit of growing up with.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't grown as such upwards, but yeah, no. It was. In terms of the actual atmosphere within the ground, it was tetchy, to say the least. There was probably 50-50 with 50-50 chance with Marsch out and people not singing, and yeah, it was getting to the point of negative, and for me, Gilly, I know you don't always get a great overview, I suppose, from where you sat. You sat in a corner of a stadium, you only see one side of the pitch properly, but I don't think we were that bad.
All right, so
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, mate. I mean, I am a renowned happy clapper. So yeah, let me know.
I think there's levels to it. So I would agree. I think we dominated them. I think we dominated the game. The reason I'm slightly reticent in saying that is because Marsch has come out and said that's his best performance while he's been at the club. So I don't disagree with the fact that we played all right, but to come out and get beat and do a bit of fist pumping at the end, having been beat, and that doesn't sit right well. Oh, we've got somebody along with us. Yeah, so that doesn't sit right well. But to come out and say that's his side's best performance in 11 months. I don't know
if that's a sign of him struggling, because he knows that wasn't our best performance. Our best performance would have been, for me, probably Chelsea, or even losing to Arsenal.
Even we played well against Arsenal, but I mean, beating Chelsea 3-0 with the amount that they've spent on their squad and the way that game went. I mean, we were all in stands just looking at each other like, "What on earth is going on?" It would just, I mean, so that's not great. I don't know if he's looking to try to build on things. There's other things as well, like he's refused to accept that we're in a relegation battle. I'm reasonably certain that that's Rad's voice coming out of Jesse's mouth. His ego is so great that he cannot allow his coach to say that we are in a relegation battle. When at the start of the season, he said that it was impossible for us to be in a relegation battle. That's bullshit. I'm not having that.
Nah, I mean, for me, is it too early to say we're in a relegation battle? Probably not. I mean, once upon a time, before the the midpoint of the season, you would probably say you're an absolute dickhead for thinking you're going to be in a relegation battle. But the fact is that now there is so much difference in between. There's almost 3 leagues in one. for me in the Premier League. You've got you've got your big hitters, your cities, and everybody else who've got loads of money. Then you've got sort of probably a middle group of people that probably should be expected to be staying in the Premier League year on year, and probably spend too much money to do that, but they're comfortable. Your teams like Villa, who probably haven't been that comfortable, but I would probably have teams like, I mean, not this season, but Everton, West Ham, other sort of teams like that.
Newcastle, before they had loads of money.
Yeah, in that middle group. And then you've almost got a separate league of 5-6 teams every year that because we're new to the Premier League, I think we are part of. And we're almost in, for me, and it's not nice to hear, and people won't like hearing it, we're almost in a relegation battle before the season starts. And like it or lump it, that's where we are. And people are going to come at me and probably say, look at Brentford. Great, fantastic. It's an anomaly. It doesn't happen very often. Leicester City won the league. That's not going to ever happen again. Probably.
Yeah, but equally, and I think that's fair to say, given that we finished one place above the relegation zone last season. So the only sides that finished below us in the league this season are the sides that got promoted.
Yeah.
So, I think it's fair to say that. And then you look at Fulham. They're in top 6.
Yeah.
So one of those promoted sides are actually in a European spot at the moment and massively outstripping us. So when you look at the position that we find ourselves in and you look at the promoted sides, it's your Everton's, all right, Bournemouth are down there, Everton, Southampton, they're poor sides. They're really doing us a favour at the moment.
West Ham. But these are all teams that they flash a bit of cash. They've got the cash. They flash a bit of cash this month. And that can all change. It can almost turn. And I think that's where the worry is. We know that those teams are established Premier League teams below us. And that it could be the flip of a coin that changes things and throws us straight down there. And performances, not necessarily performances, actually. Because I don't think the performance was all that bad last night. And we'll come on to that in a minute when we get our first guest on. But I don't think the performance was all that bad. It's results, and it's a results-driven game. And if you're Unai Emery, you're happier waking up this morning having played shit against us with 3 points than Jesse Marsch will be waking up having not bullied him, but probably been the better side all in all and come away with a loss. And I know Jesse Marsch has said that's not the case, and he's quite categorically said that. He's been quoted saying that he'd rather play well and lose than play shit and win, I think. But which doesn't make any sense to me. But look, I think, there's only going to be one happy manager this morning waking up, and they've got 3. I think somebody commented it. Was it Bully a minute ago? He said that they're a shit Villa side. I would argue not, since Emery's taken over. I think they've got 3 wins in 5 against some good sides as well. So look, it's not ideal. But anybody who actually expected us to go to Villa last night and outplay them is probably lying, I would probably say.
Especially if you look at what they did against us early in Marsch's tenure. Just before we start getting a guest on, can we just have a proper look at you? Come on, get your badge in. It's been right on edge at frame. Yeah, there you go. We got the badge. Bring someone in.
These are my pajamas, mate. Asleep in them. Let's get our first guest on. We'll get. We have got a very, very special guest that actually is like a unicorn, and we didn't even know it was real. But we're going to get somebody else on first, really quickly, and then we'll let you guess who it is. Good morning, Hannah Brad.
Oh, I'm not the unicorn.
No, you're not the unicorn. Sorry.
What the fuck? I'm out.
Hey, it's still 10:30. What time is it there?
It's 2:40 in the morning.
Jesus, what are you doing up?
And you've had us sat there 10 minutes waiting to come on and say hello to us.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry.
Despicable.
I feel like Jay.
You've got better hair than Jay, Hannah.
I've got the hair of Jay?
You've got better hair than Jay.
Oh,
he did say better. I'll stick up for him there.
I wish I could say the same for you, my friend.
Good morning, and thank you ever so much for joining us. Oh, yeah, cheers. Thanks for joining us from the US of A. First things first, Anna, you obviously will have watched the game, I assume, and thoughts then. What were your thoughts? Did we outplay Villa? Should we come away with 3 points?
I think we could have. I mean,
should we have, though?
Yeah. I don't think we played well enough. I know a lot of people are like, oh, we've We played all right. Like when I came home, my mom was like, "Well, we played all right." I don't think we did. I thought I thought defending was pretty bad. I thought Aronson was bad. I didn't see Bamford do anything until he scored. I think I tweeted at one point, I'm like, is Bamford even on? And then he scored, and I was like, oh, shit.
Delete.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought Harrison wasn't super involved at some points. Like
Harrison was awful yesterday.
Yeah.
I think having him on corners, Hannah, I don't think he beat the first man from memory.
No.
And when he did, he floated it. And I think he did it once and he floated it. And Martinez just came out and caught it. Wasted corner from a set piece.
His set pieces have been bad too. Them doing that 2-man set piece thing and the 2-man on the corners, like we're losing having a man in the box.
Get Rocker on him.
It's like freaking, it's MLS bullshit.
Get that spare man on the halfway line defending so they can't break from our corner and fucking score.
You know, the worst thing is we did that for first goal. It was Aronson that was back, and he's so lightweight. He just got brushed aside. Just on that, I have tweeted this morning and said that I made a mistake because I was losing my shit at Robin Koch, and it wasn't him. He was just jogging back. I just saw the bad hair, and it was Aronson and not Koch.
Ah, right. But yeah, I mean, you say we could have won, Hannah. Do you not feel that we were in control of that game? Probably 80% of the time.
Yeah, there was good points. I think, Villa had one shot on target the entire first half. What was their goal? And then they had 10 the second half. So I think that last bit of the first half I thought was totally our game, and it was just super frustrating that we couldn't score something. But then I thought there was, that whole game was frustrating, and I don't even think it was just frustrating for us. Like everybody looked pissed off on the pitch. I even think Ayling looked pissed off, and he never looks pissed off really. He's always like he just looked pissed off a majority of the game. So I think you could just tell in the dynamic everybody was just frustrated super early. Why are we conceding within 3 minutes? And it's impossible to basically try to come back. I thought the second goal that Villa got was silly. It's probably not Melier's fault, but I thought it was a pretty soft goal, how it just got chipped over him. I thought they kind of relied a little bit on the offside there. There's
the second, Danny. Yeah. Buendia won it. Yeah. And it was flagged as offside, wasn't it? And these are the fine margins. And I've watched.
They were nowhere near though.
No,
it wasn't even close.
No.
And these are the fine margins. I don't know how close that.
The Rodrigo one was close.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I have watched some of the highlights back, and on the. It's not great to base your full view on the highlights, but you don't get a full overview when you're in the stadium. So you just all you can hear is what the guy behind you is saying, and in front of you, who's onside, who's offside. How can you see from there, mate? You're fucking 300 meters away. Do you know what I mean? Based on that, we had chances with Rodrigo, Jack Harrison. Their keeper made a great save. I thought, realistically, I think our XG has been something. I don't like to go off these, but I will, just because it works in our favour today. But the XG was something just under 3 from memory when I looked on the drive back, and you can see why. Willie Gnonto, great save again by Martinez. I think on the balance of play, we were really unlucky not to come away with a point. At least a point last night, and certainly not the win. The frustrating thing for me, Hannah, I think, and I'm going to ask you your view on this, is we look so. I don't even know. I haven't got words for it, but just clueless when on the counter attack. We look so susceptible to it. There's always a man or two, even over on the far side, and that's to do with obviously the style of football and the pressing we're playing, but something's got to give for me. We're lucky we don't concede more.
Yeah, especially if we're going to push up and attack as far as Jesse wants us to go. We look really weak. I think I tweeted our defense on the counter attack is as strong and stable as a wet napkin. It's just they fall apart, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a fitness thing. I don't know, because most of them are back, but they're just they're not even just, I feel like they're not even placed. They get beat by one single pass because they're not facing the correct way. Like, it's technical, basic things that I don't like. What are they working on in training? That's what I want to know too.
Great point. And it is the basics that we seem to be lacking. We're doing all the good stuff relatively well, the difficult stuff, the pressing and everything else in between. We seem to be doing that's. I mean, I've not played, and I'll come on to this probably when we get our next guest on, because he's been there and done it. But we seem to be, the frustrating thing is the basic stuff that a 6-year-old learns in football: short passing, taking a touch, following your man, not all these.
We're even
things.
giving the ball away. There's like constant hospital balls where the ball doesn't make the full length to get to the next man, and we're giving it away. Aronson does it all the time now. It's like, why aren't we connecting passes?
I think to add a bit more information onto that is, if you look at the defence, since promotion, we spent £65 million on defence, and 3 out of the 4 that played in defence last night were with us in the Championship.
3 years ago. What the hell's going on?
£65 million.
What is my cat?
Bargain, if you ask me. Look, I think there's clearly issues. I mean, I don't want to focus too much on the negatives, Hannah.
Yeah.
But positives then. What did you like about last night? What apart from Willie Gnonto? And
he's unreal, dude. And I thought, I mean, Harrison played. There was 1 or 2 attacks that we did where Harrison got super wide that I thought was great. Like, if we're playing wide and then crossing it in, I thought we played really well at that point. I think Tyler Adams is a gangster and he's needs to be our captain. I love Cooper. And I thought Cooper actually didn't have a mare of a game last night. There was a couple of really important plays that he made. And he got a little bit stuck in.
Doing.
He's making biscuits, dude. Do you not make that? Biscuits? Bro, you're embarrassing me in front of my friends. No, I thought there was a couple of bright spots, but he's fighting it. It's just super inconsistent. I mean, we talked about this last time. It's just inconsistent. And I think all the players are at different, like, Gnonto is ready to like push forward and be aggressive and attack and try to get the ball through 3-4 different defenders. And then it seemed like there was even the Bamford goal. Gnonto pushed all the way through, and then Bamford was kind of just sat there and just had to tap it in. I just feel like the energy is all over the place. There's probably no consistency. There's no leadership.
Yeah. One question, 2 questions for you, Hannah.
No.
What would be the first thing you would change if you walked into that dressing room tomorrow?
Captain.
You'd strip Cooper's captaincy. Do you think that's
I'd maybe make him co-captain.
So you take off Bill.
Yeah. Easy.
Wow. And then the last question, which is probably on everyone's tips of their tongues this morning: are you Jesse in or Jesse out?
I think this is a very complex question.
Absolutely.
It's dead straightforward.
I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of background stuff happening with the Niners and the American potential buy-in and the stake that's going to have of us having an American coach and how that's going to sell rights and stuff over here in the US and shirts over here in the US. I think for looking at Leeds United and the team and the style of football that we need to play, because we are in a relegation battle, even though he doesn't want to admit it, which was odd. And I thought his press conferences were super odd. I think we should.
Do you think those are his words? Just to touch on that bit, do you think that's him saying that, or do you think that's the ego of the owner saying, you don't accept that we're in a relegation battle because I've already said that's impossible?
I think it could easily be somebody else's opinion. I think he hasn't really had an opinion himself in a few weeks, because you can tell he looks disheveled.
That does indicate a lack of backbone, doesn't it? To just parrot somebody else's.
I mean, that's probably why he didn't get sacked at halftime like Bielsa did.
See, I don't know. I don't know if that's somebody else's words. I think he believes those words.
He might believe it because he needs a job.
I think he's got to believe it. I think if he doesn't believe it, then we're in even more trouble. Because if he comes out and says, "Look, we're shit, and we're going to be scrapping relegation," how's that going to look to the players? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't think he has a lot of a lot of the guys trust right now, anyways. I think
See,
he's
I'm
probably
Still fighting for him though, aren't they? They
I
definitely
think
they're still
are,
working.
but I just don't think it's at like it's obviously not at a Bielsa level, but I don't think it's at a level of a lot of Premier League managers. Like I think Tyler and Aronson probably respect him. I don't think Rodrigo respects him because I think Rodrigo has an issue with managers. I don't think he respected Bielsa either because he kicked off all the time.
Yeah, I mean that is interesting because he made him part of the leadership group, and then he scored 4 in 4 or whatever it was, didn't he?
Yeah.
He went. That's when he started his scoring form was when he'd been put into that leadership group. So I don't know. Maybe that's just his mannerisms rather than actually a lack of respect for him. Because if he's done it for both of our gaffers,
maybe.
Well, Hannah, as ever, it's always lovely to see your delightful face, especially to kick off our weekends. So thank you ever so much for joining us. Just remind us where people can find you on Twitter and everywhere else, because I always get it wrong.
It's at Hannah Brad or LEFC SoCal. You're making
That's
fun of
my dog
pet,
crying.
and then your dog's doing that. That's weirder.
Yeah, he's honestly he's so annoying. He's really old.
he's so annoying. He's really old.
The unicorn.
Not that old people are annoying, but
the unicorn's going to be scared off. I can't wait to see who this is.
dog. Thank you ever so much for joining us, Hannah. You're an absolute diamond, always there, and great friend of the pod. And go and enjoy some sleep and wake up in a better mood.
Thanks, Hannah.
Cheers, Hannah. Take care. The lovely Hannah Bradley there, all the way from South California. Gilly, thoughts on Hannah's thoughts? Agreed, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I think we played a little bit better than she seemed to believe. I do. I think we dominated them, but it's almost like if you took the pitch and split it up, we've dominated them in 80% of the areas, and the bits that we've not done it is that goal and that goal. So that's kind of that's an issue, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Right then, has anybody even had a guess at who this flying pig that's going to be coming?
No, I don't think we have.
The unicorn. I can't call him a flying pig.
The lesser spotted. No, don't call him a pig, but the lesser
spotted.
Good
morning, Simon Johnson.
No,
bit too red for me this morning, is that?
I've got the Christmas hoodie on or whatever them called. Freezing.
How you doing, mate? All right.
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Good stuff. So we were down in your neck of the woods-ish, the West Country yesterday.
West Country?
What do you call it?
It's a bit further down is West Country. No, you were thinking of Black Country.
Black Country, whatever you want to call it, mate. Hey, I don't know where
I'm.
You're
not Black Country, are you, Si?
I'm Black Country, Villa and Black Country.
I thought Birmingham in general, or that area, was that?
It's about 30 miles away, isn't it? It's Wolverhampton is Black Country.
West Brom, Wolverhampton, yeah.
Oh, they all speak the same that way, Simon. Anyway.
Yeah, but they don't like hearing that. They do speak the same, but don't tell them that.
Thanks for joining, Simon. You watched the game last night, obviously?
Yeah, I watched it. Obviously disappointed, but again, I just feel like I'm real with where we're at, and it's nothing. If we won or lost that game, I could handle it. It's no issues. That's where we're at as a club.
Absolutely, I think that's a fair reflection, and that's sort of a point I try and get across when people just start calling me a happy clapping bastard. Is simply that we aren't the Leeds United of old from back in your day when we were competing for Europe and everything else. We aren't at that stage. We're a relatively fresh Premier League side, and to compete at a decent level, it takes time, doesn't it? I mean, there are anomalies. Our first season back in the Premier League, absolutely diamond of a season, completely different circumstances, obviously no fans and everything else. You look at what Fulham and Brentford have done, probably on shoestring-ish budgets in comparison to the rest of the league. But they are anomalies, and there's not many of those happen. And I think the weight of Leeds United weighs heavy on and the weight of expectation definitely weighs heavy on. And you'll be able to confirm or deny this. As a player, is it more difficult to play for a club like Leeds United than a Brentford or a Fulham?
Definitely, because obviously the expectations are more, and rightly so. I just think, personally, that we're probably victims of our own success, because naturally after that first season, you want to kick on, but in reality, like to kick on from that first season, where are you looking to? You're looking to get into Europe, and for me, in your second season, that's a little bit unrealistic, you know. So it's difficult because I understand the frustration from fans because everybody wants everything yesterday. But I think it's just a case of trusting in the process and just keep believing. And I think I do genuinely think as a club we're on the right track. I don't think we're behind schedule. I don't think we're in front of where we should be. I think we're just about sitting where we should be.
Yeah, I asked a question the other day on. I was on Joe's podcast, Joe Wayman's, and because he's really anti Marsch out. We need to make changes, otherwise we're down. He's really, really negative. Lovely guy, but completely the opposite end of the spectrum to somebody who's a bit more realistic, I think, like than you and I. He's probably not going to like me saying that if he's watching, by the way, Joe. Sorry, But I asked a question: where do you what is the expectation based on our current squad in our second year in the Premiership? Where would you expect us to be? And he said 15th or below, and I said we're in 14th, and he was like, "Hang on a minute, yeah." You know, it was a bit of a culture shock, and I think when people appreciate, we're not getting the points, we're not where we are or where we want to be as a team and as a club, and people might not like the manager because he fist pumps and does other things that annoy him, but ultimately I think you're quite right. I think we are on the right lines. I think we're a relatively well-run club. We're not in debt. We're on the right lines. So for me, I think that's where my positivity comes from, and I'm really glad you came on, Simon, and said something similar. But we outplayed Villa last night on their pitch. They were wasting time. They had to go. You know, they were lucky. We had enough chances to win that game. So that says to me that we're doing the right things, but it's just one or two little tweaks that we're or being a little bit more clinical. That's separating and segregating us from getting those wins.
Yeah, I mean, I was really pissed off at the first goal. Yes, excuse me, French. I was really pissed off with that.
Fuck it, right.
With that first goal yesterday, because I just don't believe he should be getting hit on the counter a couple of minutes into a match, especially away from home.
Is that not down to the coach, though? Is that not him overcommitting the players and not setting himself?
100%. And I defend Jesse at all costs, really, because I do like his energy. But he's making mistakes, and I'm seeing the mistakes reoccur, and that's my only issue with him, to be honest. But I think when you look at the game as a whole, I was really happy with it. It's positive, but ultimately it's a results business, isn't it? So I think, I don't know. It probably, from Villa's perspective, that result probably papers over a few cracks for them, because I think we were much the better side, and probably on the balance of play deserved to win it.
What did you make of his comments about that being the best performance under Jesse since he took over the side?
A little bit far-fetched for me. I think we lack efficiency in the final third. Whether that be sort of end product or sort of getting across into the box or getting your shot off, it's just a little bit lackluster. It's not sharp or quick enough. And I think the lady that was on before mentioned about what are they working on in training, and I think from an outsider looking in, I think he's got to identify sort of probably the smaller, finer detail with our play and get to grips with it and really hammer it in training.
So just on that then, you've been much closer to this, having played and then coached yourself. How much will it have impacted him that his coaching team has been so impacted by people leaving? Jacko's gone, and fair play to him, he's got himself a good job. But, surely a first-team coach, the manager of the side, is going to be heavily impacted by not having the coach regularly that he's had from the start of the season available to him.
Yeah, I thought that was a massive blow, Jacko going to MK, but obviously he wants to crack at the whip himself, which is fine. And I'm probably is not sure I would have left Leeds, to be honest. But that is what it is. That's another question. But no, yeah, it's obviously going to have an impact on things, because I would imagine that Jacko was the one going through a lot of the detail in training, along with a couple of others. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure on sort of how much influence Jesse has in training with the coaching, but yeah, it will definitely have had an impact.
Just on that side. Sorry, go on, Gilly. You finish first.
I was just going to say just one last point, because we had a comment earlier about we need a defensive specialist coach. Just in terms of coaching approaches, every manager's going to have their own style as to what they want from their coaches and how they want to put across what they want the side to do. But we've seen some sides have some success with having set piece coaches. And then we've seen, specialist goalkeeper coaches, specialist defensive coaches. Where do you land on that sort of thing? And is it not the players know or should know? All you're doing as a coach surely is just steering them in the right direction and telling them how you want them to play. The players don't get there without knowing how to do the job. They should know the basics. So when it comes down to the coaching element, what's your take on whether you have specialist ones or you rely on the players' experience?
Yeah, I'm neither for or against it, to be fair. I think players that play at that level have a great understanding of where they should be and what they should be doing at certain moments. But the game's evolved so much over the last 10 years. I think there's room for these specialist coaches, because it's a lot for probably one or two people to just conduct themselves. It is a lot of work. So as long as the specialist coach that comes in has an understanding of what the manager wants, I don't see any problem with it, to be fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Hello.
Fair. And yeah, no, that's fair. And one thing you mentioned, Simon, there was around you're not sure how much influence he would have on the training field, and you thought maybe that was more the coaches. Is that quite separated then? So I thought my understanding, and I could be completely wrong, and I suppose every manager is different. Do they all have a different amount of contribution to actually being on the training field then?
Yeah, I mean, some managers don't get involved at all.
Right.
Nothing. And to be fair, some of the best managers I've worked with have been like that. But then on the flip side, you get managers that are really hands-on, and they do everything. And I'm pretty much like that myself with if I'm in a managerial role, or obviously at a low level, but I consider myself a head coach rather than a manager.
Right.
Yeah. So it's for me, it's neither give or take. I mean, when Leicester won the league, I know it was Craig Shakespeare that done almost everything, but I wouldn't underestimate the sort of the level of impact that managers that don't do much on the coaching field have, because what they do in terms of bringing the group together, creating that real family environment. It's really important, almost as important as what the coaches do on the training pitch.
Yeah, if you look at what that knobhead did at Forest and Derby, and actually it was Peter Taylor that did all of the coaching, and when he came to Leeds, Dan United and stuff, when he didn't have Peter Taylor, it was really quite obvious, because he'd done all of the work with the first team squad in all of those different roles. So yeah, I can see that, and I guess the style of coaching in that regard. Sometimes you have a director of football, sometimes you don't. If the manager's more hands-off, they're going to be more involved in signings, the shape of the side, and just letting the coaches get on with it. So I guess it does go on the dynamic of whatever the manager or the owners tell the manager what they're doing, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, fair. So Simon, then, so on us and how we move forward, then, do you see us as a side? Do you see enough there to continue in the same way? Do you think something's got to give? Does much need changing for you for us to be where we should be, or do you think actually what we're doing now is probably where we're at, and there's not a lot that does need changing?
I think recruitment's going to be really important over the next couple of windows. Listen, I see people bang on about players, and I've been guilty of it myself. I was really enjoying Aaronson's performances like earlier on in the season, but once that sort of honeymoon period's over, and you've got to get to grips with things properly, and the adrenaline's not as high, you've got to find another way to perform. And for me, we've got good players, but that's as far as it goes. So we need probably 2 or 3 top signings, 2 of those being defenders, in my opinion.
Right, interesting.
Did you hear how much you spent on defenders just before you came on? We were talking about that. £65 million. It's just unreal.
How much was Boba? 17 was it? Something 17.7 or something.
No, I don't think it was anything like that. Wasn't that the maximum it could be? I thought it was like
I'm not sure.
11 million euros or something. So we never really know, do we? Just a question for you both then before we move on. Just going back to what you talked about before, Luke, about asking Joe where we expect to be, and he's saying 15th, and you're saying, well, we're in 14th. I think to put a bit of a different context, and there's some really important games for us to take place this weekend. If you look at, I think is Everton, Southampton, and West Ham are playing Wolves, I think. So there's sides playing each other that are down there. So I think, but to put a bit of context around the position that we find ourselves in the league, that's all well and good, but we're 2 points ahead of Everton, who are in the drop zone. So
it's a lot tighter. I mean, it is a lot tighter. There's usually quite a gap, isn't there? There's an obvious two teams by now that are already probably flirting with being 100% relegated. And then
Saints are, aren't they? Saints are really down there. If they don't get a win today against somebody that's down in bottom 3 with them, they're really.
They beat City in the cup of midweek.
Yeah, but
it's fucking bonkers.
I bet they'd trade it for 3 points in league.
Oh, I bet they would. Yeah, absolutely.
I really do.
But no, I think context is important, and I think this season there's a lot of teams beating teams that probably wouldn't expect to beat teams. You only got to look at us beating Chelsea and beating Liverpool and some of the other freak results this season, which is why the table on a whole is quite tight. There's nobody really running away with it, and similar down at the bottom. So yeah, no, I completely appreciate that, and I do appreciate that. But I think considering we've only won 2, our last win was November the 5th.
That is in itself is just insane, isn't it? It was bonfire night.
And we're still 14th in the tables. It is berserk, but it's almost like there's not really much worse we could be doing. And as soon as we start getting form, is difficult. Whether you're in good form or or poor form, it's difficult to get out of. It's hard to stop losing. It's hard to stop winning. When you've played at any level of sport, whether it be rugby, cricket, when you're losing or when you're not getting the results, it's difficult to get those results. And last night was a reflection of that for me. We had probably 5 decent chances that we probably would have buried on another night, and we conceded our, realistically, the only 2 chances that they had. Similar to Cardiff, they had 2 shots. They had 5 shots all game, 2 on target, 2 goals. We had 26 shots on goal. 26.
Well, if they played Olsen, is it Olsen, their second keeper? If they played Olsen against us last night, we'd have won 5-1.
Yeah.
Emi Martinez makes that much difference to them, because if you think that save against Jack Harrison, he has absolutely no right to make. The save against Nonto when he was trying to bend it in far corner. Again, I mean, that is a.
He's already celebrating Nonto. Is halfway corner flag?
Yeah, well, yeah. Just a couple of things we've not really touched on is there really could have been 2 penalties last night. Now, I don't want to see the types of challenges that we saw last night really be penalties. I think that it's a bit too soft. But the problem that I've got with it is I've seen them given against us. So you look at
anywhere else on the field, they're a free kick.
Well, I was just about to make the point. So if you look at what Cooper did with, I think, Buendia, when he spun him round and then he pushed him away, that was given as a free kick. And Cooper had a speaking to. And yet, when that happened in the box on Nonto, we got nothing at all. And it was effectively the same behaviour from Mings that Cooper did, but because Cooper's wasn't in the box, the ref feels like he's in a position where he can give that, and that stinks. Yeah. If it's a foul, it's a foul. Surely it doesn't matter where it is. Only the outcome changes. If it's a foul, it's a foul.
And the worrying thing about it, Gilly, is that VAR looked at it.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's unbelievable.
So yeah, I mean, look, there's obviously, for me personally, I think there's a lot more positives to take out of last night than dropping 3 points or losing 3 points or losing the game. Even I think the performance was up there, and for me, I know we've spoken about this, Simon, before, but they're still playing for him, and that's really important. And I know there's a lot of people calling for Jesse Marsch to be out. But it's almost the grass isn't always greener, and if a new guy comes in and they don't play for him, we could be sort of digging our own grave, so to speak. What are your thoughts on that, Simon? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Listen, there's always, I use that honeymoon period phrase a lot, but when a new manager comes in, there's always that little honeymoon period, but it soon goes, and I think it's really, like you said, it's really evident that they're running for him. They run really hard. But at the end of the day, the way I see it is this is our level of players. It doesn't matter how hard they run. We're going to win and we're going to lose. We've just got to be hopeful that we win enough to steer clear of the relegation. And I'm quite confident that we'll do that. But as far as getting rid of him, I mean, I watched the Arteta, the Arsenal on is it the Amazon Prime or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
I think it took him 3
Dodgy
years.
stick.
Yeah, no problem. I think it took Arteta 3 years maybe to get his squad what he wants it to be, to get the level of performance that he wants consistently. It's not a 3-6 month process. It's not the way it works. So I just think I'll just give him a little bit of time. Give him another 18 months and see where we're at. And that's when.
So to counterbalance that,
yes,
just to add a bit of balance on that one. If you look over the course of the last 7 months, he had a pre-season at the start of the season, and then he had another break with them where we had a couple of games cancelled. And then he's had the World Cup and the return from there. And if you look at him, the comments that he's shouting at the bench about the scared, why are they so scared? You look last night, first couple of minutes, we've massively overcommitted. We've got too many people in their box. There's on the break to score. We're on the back foot right off the start. 2-0 down against Cardiff. I think from my perspective, if he's not got across to those players in that period where he's had a lot of time to work with that playing squad, are you not, by giving him a chance, and this sounds really harsh, because I like him, I think he's a good guy, but the longer you give him, the more time you take away from the prospective new coach to come in.
And just to counterbalance that, you've got to. I think you're spot on. I think he has had time. But you look at the results in comparison to last season's, and while people are saying we haven't progressed, we are conceding less. We have conceded less goals, and we have scored more goals, which was it's ultimately what football's about. Look, we're in a better position than we were at this stage, I think, or equally. And the last manager, Bielsa, had loads of injury crises, and we can go on about ifs and buts. I think we've got to appreciate a lot of this first team squad that are playing now. We're actually playing in the 23s last season. He's also signed new players. It's. I think I agree with Simon. It isn't a process that's going to be healed in a few week Christmas break or World Cup break or whatever. I think what the worrying thing for me would be is bringing somebody in and trying to install a brand new style of football with the players that have been learning this in training week in, week out, could be more counterproductive than positive for me. And we probably would never know until it happened, and everyone would probably screenshot what I've just said and video it and say, I told you you're wrong, you prick.
But that is my point, actually. The longer into the season, if carry on, like I said, 2 points above the relegation zone, and I know Rad has said it's impossible, all of that stuff that goes along with it. But if we are still in that battle and actually Jesse turns out to not be the right man and they replace him later in the season, you've taken that time away from the incoming new manager. So it's all ifs, buts and maybes. We don't know what the future is. We don't know what the next 6 months will bring us. But if we are in that position where it gets to the end of March, we're still 2 points above the relegation zone, and the results haven't improved and the performances haven't improved. I think they will have to bite the bullet and sack him. And then you've taken away 2 months and a little bit of the January transfer window from the incoming manager. So I said the same about Bielsa. We kept him beyond the transfer window, and then we pulled the trigger. And then you bring in somebody in, and yes, fair play to him. Jesse kept us up. But would he have kept us up a bit better had they pulled the trigger earlier? So it was always, for me, it was a point of time.
Better. Would he have kept us up a bit better?
Would we have been further up the league?
I completely understand.
I think for me, it was a case of, if you're going to get rid of Bielsa, do it in January and give somebody coming in a better chance of doing what they need to do and bringing in players that they want to see. And it feels very much the same thing. I think you need to commit. And Simon said give him 18 months. That's fair enough, because actually if we commit to keeping him, don't keep him until March and then sack him.
I get it. And especially when we're probably targeting players around this style, the players that we are looking at, and props to the board if we do pull these signings off that we apparently are looking at, and we're having the longest medical ever known to Hugh, in football. But they're not signing these players with the view to a new manager coming in March, are they? They're signing them because they think they're going to improve this style of football under Jesse Marsch. That's the be all and end all. So I think for me, and my view is always going to be on the glass half full side, is that the board are supporting him, and they must see that things are right. That or they're going in the right direction. Granted, we're not getting results, and it's clear to see. We're not stupid. We know where we are in the league. We know how many points we've got. We know how many wins we've got. You can write that down a million times over, but ultimately, we've got what we've got, and we've got to work with it.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think they'd have way too much pride to get rid of him at this point. I think the backlash would be humongous. Getting rid of Bielsa, bringing somebody in and then getting rid of them, like not too far after. I just don't think that'd be something that I'd do.
Especially when they've looked at him for so long. Orta made it really, really clear that they've been looking at him for a couple of seasons and gone, this is our man. And Bielsa was gone at the end of the season, as I understand it. Whether he went before the start of the season or not, Jesse were coming in at the end of the season. They just moved the timeline up. That's that. But there's another comment in there about there's no one to bring in. No, that's madness. There's always somebody to bring in. They might be in a job at the moment. There might not be. There's all sorts of coaches available. Whether you could get them or not,
does he mean players or does he mean managers?
Maybe so. I mean, we're linked with a lot of players, so there's definitely players to bring in as well.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it comes down. I saw last night Willie on one wing, Jackie on another one. Now, personally, I would have swapped them, but he's playing with inverted wingers. That's fine. When they're out there and they're playing with width, don't we look so much better? Don't we look so much more balanced? Playing wingers on the wing. Surely that's not a massive stretch to actually play players in the preferred positions.
No, I agree with that. I don't think our wide boys have got the attributes to come in field too much. Obviously, you've got to vary your game from time to time, but I think the boys that we've got out wide are actually wide players. So let's keep them there and utilise them to the potential, rather than. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree. One thing I did want to ask you, Simon, and I think you've maybe touched upon it already, was if we bring these players in, can you hear that printer starting?
You take it off. Or is it printer?
I just knocked it with my knee, the bag of shit. If we sign these players that we've been linked with this better players, arguably, than we've got in these positions. Is that enough to improve us drastically, do you think? And obviously, we're going to expect with the price tag them to make an immediate impact. They're going to have a lot of pressure on them. One of the lads is only 20-year-old, the Rutter lad. And my worry is that the expectation is going to weigh heavy. And we're going to expect to sort of, because we've spent 50 million in this window, right, we should now be in the top half of the table. And that's going to have an adverse effect on the squad. And not on the squad, but potentially on the performances as well.
Yeah, it's difficult because, like you say, there's a lot of young. They're still very young. They're still learning their trade, and obviously with that, there's going to be inconsistency. So my preference would have probably been to bring a little bit more experience in to help steer the ship and help these young boys find their feet properly. So yeah, I would probably say it's gonna add probably unnecessary pressure that they really need to be there.
There's been comments that I've seen, quite a few comments about Rodrigo and about whether he struggled with being our with the price tag he has. He came in on and at the time being our record signing. I think he might still be. So what we're going to do is so he was Spain's number 9. You know, he's an experienced player. And then what we're going to do is bring in a 20-year-old that's going to cost even more, potentially. I agree with you as well. I think you look at the impact, and I know that we're playing at a different level now, and the players, you know, you could see Pablo absolutely try to do his best against Liverpool in that first game back in that season after promotion. He just didn't have the legs to be able to keep up with Liverpool in that first game. And do you know what? A lot of players don't. But so I'm not denigrating him at all. But you look at the impact that losing Pablo's leadership out of the squad when he left, Berra, even Alioski,
clicking out.
Yeah, Click's another one that's gone. We are losing. It doesn't seem like we've learned from. Having experience in the squad's really important. It's not just about ability. It's about, the experience that you can call upon. If you make a mistake, well, actually, I've got 10 years of being a Premier League footballer behind me. I can brush off a mistake. Whereas if you're 20 years old and you're brand new into the league, into the country, into the side, and you make a mistake, that's going to weigh heavy on you, especially if you've got a massive price tag. And the expectation's so high. It don't feel right.
Yeah.
We need more experience for me.
Yeah.
No, I'd agree. I mean, but then you've got to. I don't know. I don't know the answers, and it is frustrating. I think had we won last night or got a draw, we'd probably be having slightly different conversations today, and that almost frustrates me as well. Do you know what I mean? Because we were the better side by a long shot, and their fans were absolutely loving the fact that they'd nicked all 3 points yesterday.
Yeah.
Walking out of that stadium, they were just they probably couldn't actually believe it. They were like, so yeah. I think the difference in if one more or two more of our opportunities had gone in, we'd be having a completely different conversation. Just sort of highlights the fine margins in football, and it's ruined my weekend. I'll not beat around the bush. It fucking doesn't. Like, it ruins my weekend. I drove,
but let's remember,
2 hours there, 2 hours back, and it's a lot. It's a lot. It is a lot. It's just a lot. Fuck it.
But let's remember what Berardi said: don't be too high when you win, and don't be too low when you lose. It's football, and you get your results, and that's fine, and then that's gone. When you go into your next game, so that's the one thing that he always stuck by is to try to do that. I mean, it is shit when you get beat, and it is good when you win. But it's that. For me, if we survive the season, if we do all right, and if we beat Cardiff, we've got an opportunity actually to get deeper into the cup that we've done for years now. We will be favourites in the next 2 ties. If we get beyond Cardiff, we'll be favourites for the next one as well. So we've got an opportunity. If we can get quite deep into the cup and we're reasonably comfortable towards the end of the season, that'll be success for me. Yeah. It really will. And it is that thing of, enjoy your wins, but don't enjoy them too much because it's just one game. But don't be too down about getting beat either. It's difficult though, isn't it? It's easier said than done.
Yeah. I think we'll pretty much the same as last year. I think we'll be fine.
We stayed up on last day of season last year.
Pretty much the same as last season. No doubt.
I think we'll do it 2 games before the end of the season this year. So that will be progression. But no, I think we'll be fine. I think it'll be tough. I think there's going to be some difficult moments. I think we'll have some good results. But I think next season now is where we really need to start kicking on and making sure that the recruitment's right and they're not just players coming in to make the numbers up. They're actually improving the squad and, well, the first 11, not the squad. And I think we're in decent shape to do that. So time will tell, I suppose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much. What I want to do just really quickly is just fly through a few of the comments and just see what your guys' thoughts are on those. So, first of all, not sure I can't just watch the pod as therapy or talk this morning. I'll know if I feel better or worse for it in an hour. Cheers for that.
We've been on nearly an hour, so you better let us know.
Yeah, we played well going forwards. Needed more end product though. Absolute gash at the back, but that's not new. I don't think we bother defending in coaching sessions. I think that goes back to what we said about the potentially special. I'd be surprised if we don't have a defensive biased coach at the club of some in some way, shape or form. But I think it's certainly something that needs looking at. And I almost don't think the defending is that bad. It's the shape and the way we get caught out from the press. There's just something that's not quite working. I mean, I looked over last night and I could see, because I could see the whole opposite side of the pitch to where the ball was. There was I would argue 20 occasions an overlap, and that shouldn't be happening that often in a Premier League level for me. I don't know. I'm not a Marsch hater, but the table and stars don't lie. We're almost a year on from Bielsa losing his job for exactly where we are now. It's arguable we're actually going backwards. Kev, I had this conversation this morning. We went on a really bad run of form just after the midway point, so we're actually just a little bit behind where we were. And then we conceded 17 or 18 goals in 4 games. So until we get to that stage, we won't be quite at that stage. But yeah, I agree. Ish. One of my favourite comments, Willie made Ashley Young look his age last night. He got some stick, did Ashley Young, I'm not going to lie.
I've got to be honest, I thought he marshalled him quite well until he started losing his legs. I mean, he's 37? Until late on in the game.
Old?
I think so. Yeah.
Older than me.
Until come on. Until late on in game, I thought he old manned him quite well. He clearly didn't have the legs on him. He couldn't match him for pace, but he all manned him quite well. I thought. I did. I thought he played pretty well against him in a way that an older lad's going to do against a younger lad that's got the legs on him. Don't get me wrong. I thought that he fouled him far too much, but the ref let him get away with it, so he kept doing it.
Yeah. No, I don't think he played too bad.
Unpopular opinion. I think Willie would be better off being used from the bench at the moment.
But with Somerville out and with Sinisterra out, we don't really have the option, do we?
Yeah. When those guys come back, I just think his energy and enthusiasm coming off the bench when late in the game when when they
just laughing at Smarty's comment.
Yeah, I've seen it as well. I've lost my train of thought. When opposition are a little bit more fatigued and tired, I just think he'd have a greater impact. But I think that might be an unpopular opinion.
No, I think you're spot on.
I think a lot of people have. And, one of the points that we made in the main podcast is actually starting him from the start and expecting him to have that high level of performance week in, week out when he's just a kid. He's a little bit unfair on him as well.
Yeah, and we're almost becoming too reliant on a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He was not only, but it was the biggest attacking threat for us last night, and we seemed to look for it almost too often because and they just doubled up on him in the end and made it a little bit more difficult. It was quite easy to read then, but no, yeah, I don't think Ashley. I think Ashley is a dickhead anyway. Not Jesse's fault if the players can't finish. The most clinical player was Bamford, one shot and scored, but Harrison should have scored. Yeah, we've touched on that. Yeah, the real question is now. I'll ask this one to you both. Actually, if we were to replace Jesse, who realistically, who do you see replacing him?
There's a long list of people available.
Who would you replace him with from that long list? Realistically,
well, you say realistically. I mean, what's realistic? I don't know.
Somebody who wants to come to a team that's in a relegation battle.
Well, we're not in a relegation battle. We've heard that.
No, but we've agreed that we probably are every season, right at the very start. So who could we? I mean, getting Bielsa in was a massive coup, and it was a 1 in a million. Do you know what I mean? We're realistically, a championship club shouldn't have been able to coax somebody like Bielsa to the club. You know.
So you're saying that I can't choose Poch? Is that what you're saying?
No, you can't choose Poch. I don't think he'd come in a million years. But I would have Poch, yeah.
I would have him. Yeah, I'll take.
But instead of paying 40 million for a non-scoring striker to come in to be a supporting attacker in Rutter, which is what I see him being, he's more a 10 than a 9 from what I've seen, and I haven't seen a lot of him, to be fair. But I've read a bit, I've listened to a bit, and I've watched a bit, and he looks like a supporting player, not a 30 goal a season, as somebody else has just said in the comments. So instead of splashing all of that cash on him, if you waived all of that cash for a couple of years of Poch, do you get him? Maybe. I don't know.
I think the problem you've got with somebody of that stature and experience is he going to want to tarnish his CV with coming to a club where, he might not. I mean, I think he'd be great, and we all think that. And he's got the attributes of a manager. He's been there, done it, and he's managed at the very top level at PSG, and
he loves Bielsa.
Else. And he loves Bielsa. Like but does he want to come and be at a club? I mean, if they can sell it to him and say, look, in 2 years we're going to give you this much money. We've got a takeover pending. It's going to happen. Yeah, by all means. But realistically, where we are now, for me, I don't think we can tempt somebody of that stature.
And maybe not, but equally the other side to it. I mean, this would be Otto's job. He's got to go and sell the project to him, hasn't he? But you go and you look at the glittering array of young stars, potential stars that we've got in our squad. You come and make them world beaters.
Why don't you go do Otto's job? You've just fucking sold it to me.
I get what you're saying about the relegation piece, and I do think that we are in that battle. But equally, who wouldn't want to manage Nonto right now?
No, I
Somerville's up there. Somerville scored in 4 consecutive games coming into the side.
I get that.
There are reasons to do it as not just the league position.
I get
and
that.
And obviously, you take him into the top half, then that's a boon to your CV, isn't it? So is that manager coming in going to back themselves?
My argument to that would be we haven't got a team of Nontos and Somervilles. We've got a Nonto and a Somerville. That's. I mean, look, we're all in agreement. Potchin. That is very red. I would say Michael Brown just agreeing with us. Yeah, we're in lower bottom team. Other teams that have been in the Premiership have more acclimatised to the Premiership than Leeds. Yeah, I think on the whole that there's a lot of teams that do come up and down. We had a massive absence, and it has been a bit of a culture shock for us. We can't lie. So yeah, definitely. Turn that one off. Sorry. Definitely soft, but every game I've watched recently, they've been. I think this is on the penalties you mentioned, Matt.
It was, yeah.
They need to be consistent.
Yeah, there was another one as well that I didn't mention, and I don't know if you'd have been able to see it from the stands, but Rodrigo running through was bundled to the ground. Now he might not have got to the ball, but there's still a foul. Yeah.
Foul set by a different barometer in and outside the box. Yeah, that's pretty much what we've just said. Rather refs blew for the soft ones in the box. It was soon stop all that shirt pulling and grabbing. I think this might be bad for us, Kev, because the amount of shirt pulling Cooper and co do, mate, I think we'd be fucked. I'll be honest
with you on that one.
Before Bielsa, Leeds never had stability with managers because it averaged one coach per season. Cooper has been at Leeds since 2014. Has played under 15 different managers. That is berserk. in the best part of eight and a half years, we've had 15 managers, and Bielsa was here for 3 of them. So, yeah.
Do you know Big Stevenage? I reckon we could go get him. He masterminded the win against Villa. We didn't. We couldn't do it.
Ooh, debatable one here. one of the Marsch out, I think. Think the players would find it easy to transition to a more favourable formation and tactics with a new coach than sticking with Jesse and his. Thoughts on that, Simon, midway through a season?
Well, if Jesse's saying that he's not got all of his methods across to the team and he's been there 12 months.
And he's trying to play wingers in a compressed penis formation.
I think you're right, Simon, but you've got to appreciate not all this squad's been there for the whole 12 months. And the majority of the young lads coming through weren't playing under Jesse last year. They were playing under Jacko.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It depends who that coach is, doesn't it, and how influential they are. If it's somebody like a Marcelo Bielsa, and he's not ever going to come back, and I know we still love him and everything, but somebody with that aura about them who can influence. We've seen what he did with that squad that we had in the championship that arguably probably shouldn't have won the championship, but yeah. I
think one thing I would just say on that point is I do think formations and tactics obviously have an impact, but it's the players. It's the players that make the big difference. It's the level of play you've got in the squad. So that's one thing I would rebuttal to that.
But his point that they were playing with fear. If the manager's sending them out and they are scared, surely that's the job to address. And if somebody can address that, then if you're playing with confidence, it goes back to a point that Luke was making earlier: is when you get into a run, whether that's a losing run or a winning run, it's difficult. It's far easier to carry on that trajectory than it is to change it. When you get on a winning run, wins just seem to come. And then when you're on a losing run, you can't see where the win's going to come from. It doesn't look like you can buy a point. It doesn't look like you're going to be able to turn that around at that point. So I think for me, it's if a manager, we've seen these players have got the capability. It's just the consistency. And if that's confidence and them playing with fear, and a manager can come in and address that and play wingers on the wing, that's quite a big deal.
Yeah, fair point. Thanks, Tom. Stu says Bielsa had a massive backroom staff who all left. We needed Marsch to lost 2 assistants. Leeds desperately need some assistance. Is that as important as we think it is, Simon? Do you think losing somebody like Jack, who has been at the club forever and a day, could have had a massive effect on training and things? Because you said earlier that he would have probably had a big influence on the training field and probably done a lot of the work out there. So losing him partway through a season and arguably not being replaced, do you think that's something we do need to be looking at?
Yeah, that role, the assistant roles, are really important part of the jigsaw. But it has been in my experience. It's almost that sort of bridge between the players and manager. And I know, it seems like Jesse has a really good relationship with the boys, but sometimes there needs to be that little bridge in between the two, and where the players can go and confide and things like that. So it's that really needs to be looked at sort of ASAP. It's an important role.
Yeah, because we got the guy from, was it Dortmund? Earlier on in the season. Was he from Dortmund? Gilly, correct me? Ranić, or whatever it is, I forget his bloody name. Somebody will tell us in the comments. But yeah, I'm sure we got a coaching from there earlier on in the season, but that was before Jacko left, I'm almost positive. Because he took charge when Jesse was banned. Do you remember? Who I'm on about? Ranić, or whatever he's called. I can't remember his bloody name. Anyway, we'll move on quickly and I'll let you have a look at that. When you have good wingers who are quick and can get into places on the pitch at pace and work hard all the time. It was Dortmund, yeah.
Yeah.
All the teams hate that Willie and Jack played well last night. Debatable. I thought Jack was poor last night. I thought Willie.
I didn't think he was poor. I thought Jack played well, but when you reflect on his set pieces, they were all poor. I think in open play, I think he played really well. He looked dangerous when he got on the ball. When he was wide, I think when he's through the centre and when he's on set pieces, I think he looks poor. But when he was wide, I thought he played pretty well.
Yeah, I was. I think because of the moans and groans every time he struck a free kick or a corner or whatever. I think that's probably as I say, it's a completely different perspective when you're there. But all right, fair play. I'll watch it back and I'll eat my words on that. Cheers, Paul. Had my boy in tears last night. He's now running around in his Meslier kit, training down south amongst Chelsea, West Ham, Arsenal, and Spurs kits. Not 1 foot given. Keep the faith. That's what we like to hear. Nick Gill says, that's my concern about binning Jesse and going through a succession of crap managers again. I would argue that, I mean, I'm Jesse, and we'll come on to this, but is Jesse not crap? And I think that's going to split a few.
Basically what that's saying is we should have stuck with Darko Milanic so that we didn't have some of the shit that came after him. You just
go straight to Bielsa. It's a difficult one, and it's one that splits the fan base. It was horrible in that away end last night because there was people next to me. I'm with the belief that it's going to have no positive effect shouting for the manager to be out, and there was probably 40-50% of the crowd shouting Jesse out and chanting it, and it got going. It was a difficult situation. There was fans arguing amongst themselves, probably on that. Really, really difficult one. Really difficult one, that. And I think it's one that I'm going to ask you both in a second before we close. But Leeds play expansive football compared to the teams in and around them, which leave Leeds vulnerable to counter-attacks, whereas teams around Leeds play low block and counter-attacking football like Villa did. It's almost too simple, isn't it? It almost is literally put into words there by Michael that Villa were time wasting from the first minute, from the second minute, and they set up yesterday to frustrate us, and it does frustrate us. We need to find a consistent way of breaking these teams down and breaking, and we do that against the better sides. We do that. Your Liverpools, your Cities, not so much against City, but Chelsea, Arsenal, the teams who want to play football, we compete against because they want to play expansive, attacking, free-flowing football. The teams we struggle with are your teams like your Villas and Evertons because they control the tempo of the game, and it takes a sting out of everything we do, and it's frustrating to see. It really is. Last one.
Again, though, that's on the manager to overcome that, isn't it? That's
absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
With a way to counter that.
Absolutely agree. On a good note, we have our very own Rory Delap in Wober. Yeah, decent throwing.
Is that not our very own Rafinha?
Right, lads, we've been on for fucking ages this morning, and before we do close, one very important question. Then Simon Johnson, right now, Jesse in or Jesse out?
I'm Jesse in. I am.
Gilly?
Out.
Jesse out. I'm still just about Jesse in. I think we've got 2 or 3 important fixtures coming up, and I think that will determine where I am come the end of Jan, middle of February. I think we've got some, Brentford at home coming up. We've got obviously the Cardiff Cup game, and then if we beat Cardiff, I think is it Accrington Stanley or somebody else, Fleetwood or something?
Boreham Wood, isn't it? Accrington or Boreham Wood.
Yeah. Great. Get your comments in. Just put in or out. Shake it all about, and we'll leave it at that, I think, for tonight. Thanks ever so much, Simon, for joining us, mate. Appreciate it.
Nice
Lovely to see you. Lovely
Nice
to see you. And Hannah, thank you for joining as well. We'll be back on. Oh, in fact, keep your eyes peeled. Sunday, we've got a special episode coming out. We got to speak with Leeds band Apollo Junction earlier on in the year, and we'll be releasing that for the first time on Sunday. Do keep your eyes peeled for that. It's very much just a general chat in a pub, plenty of drinks and that, and we just had a bit of chat about how they got into the band and why they support Leeds and all that sort of in between stuff as well. So thanks ever so much for joining us, and we will we'll see you if you want to see it on Sunday. If not, we'll be back Tuesday. Thanks everybody.
Cheers all.